Hello, welcome to episode 79 of the Online Strength Coach podcast. As I'm sure you'll appreciate, there's no intro music on this episode. Reason being, it's now 20 minutes to 11 on a Monday night, and I don't want to wake up the neighbours by playing the Sonos loud. So we'll just get cracked straight into it. Today's question actually comes from one of the workout videos from Operation 700. It comes from Shire Lad. Marc, class channel mate, thank you very much. Quick question about modern rugby union props. Played loose head up to an okay level when I was younger, county level, and it seems the modern props are getting bigger, but also more dynamic around the park. Just wondered what kind of strength levels you see in professional props these days. How do they balance training? Good luck with Operation 700. Thank you very much. So for you, those of you who don't know, how I earn my crust, or my primary job, is that I am one of the strength and conditioning coaches for Edinburgh Rugby. So obviously I have an appreciation of the strength levels of a modern day prop. I've got a pretty good idea of what modern day prop is like within certainly within the professional game in Scotland, and also around the Pro 12. I've heard some stories of props from guys who have been, for instance, some guys who I've trained who have been within the professional setup within Ireland, some guys who I've trained who have been within the professional setup within England and Wales. So, as an example, the typical loose head, I'll not name names, the typical loose head within our club will squat between 220 up to about 260. They'll bench press from about 150 up to about 180. They'll deadlift from about 240 up to about 290, 300. They'll power clean from 130 up to about 150, 160. And they'll chin up body weight plus about 30, 40. So they'll chin from a total weight of like 150 to 170 kilos depending on the prop. Now obviously there's different shapes within that. So our lightest loose head is about 107 kilos, and our heaviest loose head is about 113, 114 kilos. It has been as much as 117 kilos. Within the tight heads, within our club, the average tight head will back squat from 240 to 270. If they clean, they'll clean about 140 to 160. They tend to be a little bit less dynamic per se. Bench press, the guys within our club aren't particularly strong up top, tight head wise anyway. They'll bench from like 130 to 160. Again, chin up probably within the region of 140 to 170, depending on how heavy the guy is, and deadlift will be from like 230 up to about 270. They tend to, well, from certainly within the guys we've got, they tend to be better squatters than they are deadlifters. And I don't know, that's reflected from their rugby history or preference they have training wise, but it's kind of the way they're built. And then hookers, they'll squat within our club from 200 to 250. They'll power clean from 130 to 160. Bench press from 150 to 180. Pull up, tend to be a bit stronger upper body pulling for some reason. Within our setup, 150 to 190. And that's kind of within the core strength lifts that we utilize within our program. Those are the sort of strength measures you'll have, and hookers will weigh within our club from 108 to 116, and the tight heads will weigh from about 115, and they go right up to 127, and there are guys that are obviously much bigger than that. With what I've seen within the Scotland setup, there's a few guys who are slightly stronger, some guys who bench press from 190 to 200, some guys who squat from like 270 to 290 within the loose head scenario. Some guys who deadlift from 280 to 290. Some guys that power clean like 170 or the clean 170. Although these players are, particularly the kind of strongest players are fringe players. They're normally form parts of the training squad, and they tend to lack the specific strength that the props that are the front line at the international level. Those guys are strong, but there are guys within the setup who are stronger, but they're better players. Basically, they have better specific strength. They're better scrummagers. They're better in the loose. They're better ball players. They're just better athletes in general. So that's kind of where within, that's fairly typical as well. I've heard from secondhand sources the likes of Cian Healy bench presses like 190, squats like 260. I don't know what deadlifts or cleans, but I've heard that from people who work within that setup. Certainly, I think that bench is reasonably accurate as to regards his upper body strength. So we're talking basically guys who would be, elite level or sub-elite level powerlifters, natural powerlifters or tested powerlifters, but still play sport. So they're of a pretty robust or a pretty good level of strength. So how do they train? They train fairly typically of how the rest of the guys train. So within a pre-season, they'll lift 4 to 5 times a week. They'll condition 4 to 8 times a week, depending. They'll do 2 to 4 unit session within the week where they do lots of scrum-specific, liner-specific work. And that's when the vast majority of the heavy lifting will be done within the preseason setup. When we get into the full swing of the season, they'll lift twice generally. Some will lift 3 times. They'll do one kind of major lift. So the major lift will be their what we call primary power. So primary power is any heavy weighted ballistic activity you want to do. So it'll be push press, jerk, snatch, power clean. It doesn't really matter. Whatever the guys want to do, regards of a weighted triple extension. They do. So they might do the big man. The big men don't tend to do much dynamic work. Some of them love it. Most of them tend to not worry about it too much. So, like within the rest of our players, we'll do slide sprints, we'll do box jumps, we'll do depth jumps, we'll do a variety of ballistic and plyometric activity. Quite a lot of the big lads don't really engage with that. Second rows might, but the front 3 tend to not. They tend to be more your typical just come in, lift. So they'll do a primary power exercise, they'll do a primary lower body strength exercise. So that's down to the preference of the athlete, whether they like the deadlift, whether they like the trap bar, whether they like the box squat, rather they like the squat. We don't tend to mandate, as long as there's some kind of heavy load with free weights, and they'll follow a program for that. And then they'll do lower body and upper body assistance at the end of that session. Second session, they'll do a heavy upper body lift. Before they do that, they'll do like a secondary power exercise. So that tends to be like a hang variation if they do snatch or clean, or it'll be push press if they jerk, or they can jerk again if they want. And again, it's the same thing. It's any kind of weighted triple extension activity that they want to do. We like that the second one to be a little bit lighter, a bit faster. And then they'll do a primary push. So bench press is a very common one, or football bar bench press, military press will be the third most popular. Some guys use dumbbells. And they'll do a primary pull, it could be a row or a vertical pull, it's up to the guys, and then they'll do an upper body session off the back end of that, involving 2 to 4 exercises, normally within hypertrophy ranges, so anywhere from 6 to 12 reps a set, and 3 to 5 reps, or 3 to 5 sets in a workout. So that's a typical sort of in-season training plan. What you see when we look at props who are a lot more dynamic, a lot bigger, basically, size-wise, a lot of it's come from the nutrition side of things. Guys are a lot more aware of what they have to eat calorie-wise. They eat better foods, they eat higher protein content. So that kind of nutrition side of things takes care of a lot of the physique-wise, a lot of things physique-wise. Training-wise, a lot of the strength and conditioning programs are probably a lot better than they were certainly 20 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. So that's come on, and we select for size as well. So within those positions, so the guys who make it to the level where I'm seeing them, or the levels where you're watching them on TV, they've went through like an actual selection process. Well, not that they've been dying, but so by the time that a loose head gets to me, if he's come from South Africa, say, he's come from a province, or he's come from a school initially, then came from a province, and then went to an academy, professional academy, and then he went to like a professional team, and then they've come to us via whatever routes or agents that have brought them to my doorstep. Or within Scotland, they'll start within a school year, start within like a senior end of the school. They maybe go to a club then, and then they get put within the club. They get noticed by an academy. They get put into the academy system, and then they've got to like make selections through their years. So if they start from the age of 15 within the academy, by the time props we normally see by the time they're 20, 21, 22. So by the time they're that age, they've been within the academy setup for 6 years. So they may have went through the very minimum 6 selection processes to make it where they are. So size, physical size, and guys' genetics are large determinant factors within that scenario. So basically, you get the cream of the crop as it comes from that position. So we select for size in that position. So that's why you see guys are getting a lot bigger. And it's been noticeably a lot bigger within the last 20 years. And people think that it's the training, or people think it's the nutrition, or people think that we use steroids now, or that we're a dirty sport. But people don't think about the selection processes, and that's probably the largest determinant factor. And then within that, obviously, the training methodologies have changed. Some would say improved, others would say they've changed, and nutrition and supplementation has become very big within the sport. Although I think the nutrition and supplementation as regards culture is probably not as good as it could be, certainly within what I've seen of players. There are some players who are absolutely bang on, some players who are completely off the charts. But it's a team sport, so you're always going to deal with a variety of character. Okay, hopefully that's answered your question as regards to strength and the training that we do. Thank you very much for the question. I actually really enjoyed answering it. Quite different from what I've had before, which is always nice to... I'm sure people that listen to this would appreciate having a little bit of a different topic as well. Thank you very much for listening. I'll be back again this week. Probably Wednesday, I'd imagine. So, see you in episode 80. Thank you very much for listening to the Online Strength Coach podcast. I've been Marc, signing out. Thank you very much.